Welcome to the Longest Turn Board Gaming Podcast. This is episode 2, Praga Caput Regni. My name is Tyler.
Hello, this is Kevin.
This is Tyson.
Today we are going to be talking about the games that we've been playing lately. Then we're going to do our feature review, Praga Caput Regni. Following the feature review, we're going to jump into our top 5 lists. And this episode, our top 5 is top 5 games named after real locations. Then we'll close out the episode with what we are excited about and the Longest Turn Award. All right. We're going to jump right into what we've been playing lately. Kevin, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. I've been playing a game. The game came out in 1988, so it's an old one. It's been called many things. The current version of the game is called What the Heck? But looking at Board Game Geek, it's got, I think, about 20 different names and times it's been, printed and called by. So what the heck? I got the opportunity to play this a few weeks ago. My family went on vacation up to a place in Colorado called Estes Park. We didn't play a whole lot of games, but this is one of them that we did play. What the heck? All the players have a hand of 15 cards. They're numbered 1 to 15. Then there is a scoring pile of cards numbered -5 to 10. So the way the game works is you shuffle up the scoring pile, you flip over the top card, and then everybody has a chance to play a card face down secretly. You flip over the card, and if it's a positive number on the scoring pile, the person who played the highest numbered card gets that card. The catch is, if you play the same number as somebody else and you're the highest card, it goes down to the next person who didn't tie, and they get that card. The flip side is if there's a negative card, whoever plays the lowest number gets that negative card, but it follows the same rules. If the lowest number is tied, then it goes to the next highest number. They get that negative card. So it's kind of fun trying to figure out what people are going to play. So if the 10 comes out, that's the best card in the game. And the 15 is the highest card to play. And you're trying to, guess what other people are going to play. If everybody plays a 15, that card stays there. You flip over another card and do it again. If 2 players play a 15, 2 players play a 13, and somebody plays a 3, then the 3 gets it. And that happened a few times in my game. So it's fun to see what, try and get in people's heads, see what they're going to play. And it's really fun when you pull off getting a high point card, playing a low card, which is a lot of fun. So really simple game, not a lot of rules, but we had a fun time playing it. And that's What the Heck.
Sounds like a little bit of like Just One. Like I haven't played Just One, but like the whole concept of you don't want to do the same thing as somebody else.
Right.
And it sounds like there's a little bit of almost like bluffing maybe that could be involved, like reading your opponent and understanding what you think they're going to play. But I can't play this because if I play this and they play this, it's a problem. Sounds like you're into a lot of like reading the table games lately.
Right. Yeah, it's true. We've been playing a lot. I had no idea what this game was about. And my brother-in-law pulled it out and we played it. And it's reading the table, remembering what cards have been played by other players before, purposefully trying to lose because you want to keep the cards that are higher for later rounds type of thing. And I don't know, it's a lot of fun. It's not very deep at all, right? It's a really light filler game, but we had a good time playing it.
Sounds fun. I was really leery of the name of the game. It didn't sound like it was going to be a lot of fun to me, but your description has made me interested. I'd give this one a try.
Do you like the name Beat the Buzzard or Raj or Teacher's Pet? Because those are all versions of it.
I think I like any one of those better, actually.
Oh, really? Because I got more.
So did you actually buy it, or is it since playing it, or?
Yeah, we actually bought it. It's one of those times. I mean, this has happened to all you guys, right? Like you play a game and then you're immediately on Amazon and it's in your cart and you buy it right after you play it.
Yep.
I've never done that before.
Right. Never done that, right? No, that was one of the times that we're like, my wife really liked it. So
cool.
Anytime we get a game that everybody enjoys, it usually ends up at my house.
Awesome. We need to play it.
Yep.
So I also went on a vacation. I think while you were up at Estes Park, I went up to Avon, Colorado, and we also played games as a family. And one of the games that I played was Spicy, and it's a really simple card game that came out in 2020. The designer is Zoltan Gyori, and it was published by Heidelberg Games. And it has beautiful art by Jijin Kim. And Spicy is a bluffing card game where you're dealt a hand of cards and you're trying to get rid of them to win a trophy, which gives you bonus points at the end of the game. And if you get rid of your hand twice, you win 2 trophies and automatically win the game. When it's your turn, you can play a card. You can challenge the card that was played before you, or you can pass until your next turn and draw a card. And when you play a card, everybody plays their cards face down in a pile in the center. So you have to announce what you're playing, what the number is, and what the suit is. And you could be completely telling the truth, or you could be completely lying. You just have to follow the suit of the pile, and you have to play a higher number than the last card that was played. So once you play a card, then the person after you could possibly challenge your card. If they challenge, they have to say whether you played the wrong suit or the wrong number. And if they're right, then they win the challenge. And if they're wrong, they lose the challenge. So you may have completely told the truth and they have no chance of winning. You may have completely lied about both the number and the suit, so they're guaranteed to win the challenge. Or they have a 50-50 chance of winning the challenge. If you win a challenge at any point, whether you're the person that played the card or challenging, you win the pile of cards that have been played up to that point, and they're worth victory points at the end of the game. If you lose the challenge, then you'll draw 2 cards. And it's a really quick, maybe 15-minute card game. It's been a lot of fun. We played it as a family quite a bit, and we've also played it at board game night. It's a great filler game, and I think it creates some exciting moments and lots of laughs while you're playing it. It also adds 6 red cards that each one of them has a modified rule or a new rule that you can play with. And at this point, unless I was playing with someone new, I would always play with at least one of those. I think it'd be really fun and chaotic to play a game with all 6 red cards and see just if it's even possible.
It's already chaotic with 1 red card.
Right.
So I can't even imagine. It would be fun. I can't imagine throwing in all of them at the same time.
Some of those red cards will inherently speed up play with the way they work, and then other of them slow down play. So I could only imagine what would be going on if you had played more than 1 or even all 6.
Yeah, I think it might just be complete chaos. I mean,
absolutely.
Which would be awesome, right? At least to try once.
To try one time would be awesome. Yeah.
So
now you introduced this to us after you played it on your vacation with your family, and this is one that I had wanted to play for a very long time. Like, I'd heard other content creators talk about it, and the whole idea of it being that kind of bluffing element on top of the fact that the art is really unique. You didn't really mention that too in depth, but this art is so quirky, and those tigers, all their faces are really weird. It's just got a fun little vibe to it. But I can't help but make the comparison because you brought this to board game night the same time that Kevin brought Cockroach Poker, because of the last time we had our episode, he was talking about that, and I wanted to try Cockroach Poker, so I can't help but make the comparisons because they're both the same weight of game. They're both in that kind of bluffing genre, and of the two, I like them both a lot. So it's a kind of a hard split, but of the two, I think I've preferred Spicy more, but I've also played more of Spicy.
Is it because you have never won Cockroach Poker?
No. Now that is true. I have never won. We played 3 games and I lost all 3.
And it's funny because there's only one loser.
But that's exactly. I think why I prefer Spicy is not because I lose, because I've lost Spicy many times, and I've been just happy to play it. But I've lost Cockroach Poker every time, and my issue is that the difference is having one loser versus one winner is a different dynamic entirely, because there's no way that you can kind of commiserate with your fellow losers in it. You're just like, no, I'm just the worst one here. And so I did terribly.
So I'm glad that you brought up the comparison. I was actually about to say something about cockroach poker. For me, I only played cockroach poker once, and I've played spicy probably 20 times at this point. I think I liked cockroach poker more, but I'd like to play it more to really make that comparison. I think that the decisions in spicy are quicker, right? You need to make them faster. But for me, I thought the decisions, at least in the initial play of cockroach poker, were more interesting.
And I would agree that there are a lot of decisions in cockroach poker that I like better. I like the group dynamic of cockroach poker, and I like that you can the table can make a conscious decision to try and to shift the way that things are going. And if you're it reminds me of the mind in that element. When you're in sync with everybody at the table, you can get to that perfect position to give somebody a card that they don't want. And that's really exciting. And I love that about cockroach poker. But it ultimately comes back to that whole, at the end of the day, there's one loser. And that was the biggest issue for me because of that group dynamic you can create around the table. That group can elect to determine who is going to be the loser.
You can kind of pick on somebody a little bit in that game, right? But you're trying to, if you see somebody has collected 3 of one type of critter, I mean, you're going to be a target for the most part, right? And you're going to try and funnel a card that's going to make them lose. So I can see how that may be a complaint about the game for sure.
So did you guys call off the dogs when I had 3 of one type in my first game?
I did. So I specifically remember thinking, this is Tyler's first game, and I remember losing on my first game, not fully understanding that. So I'm going to try and turn the attention away from Tyler, which was a terrible decision on my part because it then immediately backfired on me.
I'm pretty sure Logan was still headhunting me and trying to get me out.
Well, usually your kids want. I mean, my daughter always wants me to lose. So
right,
and it's more funny to have Tyson lose. So that's that's why we kind of did it that way.
I did. I felt like, I mean, everybody else at the table had already played, and we were 5 cards in, and I was like, oh crap.
You were getting.
I'm getting hammered.
You had no idea how to play the game, and you were just collecting all these cards.
And then there was at one point I passed 4 or 5 cards in a row to Logan, and he guessed correctly on all of them, and I got stuck with every single one of them. And after that point, I kind of, figured out what was going on a little bit, and then came back, or at least survived long enough for Tyson to lose.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Because there is that learning curve with this game. I could see that if you have an experienced group, particularly because this game is accessible to anybody, this doesn't have to be played by gamers, right? Because it is accessible by anybody, and if you had a group of people who were maybe not as familiar with games, or everybody was familiar with this game except for one person, and they're not familiar with games in general, you could leave them with a very bad taste in their mouth at the end of this game if they're the ones that are getting picked on just because they don't understand it, which was why I was like, I wasn't not going to make you lose. That wasn't my goal. My goal was I want to get Kevin a card, like at a certain point. And so when I went to go give it to Kevin and get it to Kevin, it started to backfire on me immediately at that point. And I was like, oh, this is not working out. And then I started getting piled on again, which is just a product of the game. It doesn't detract from the amazing experiences that the game offers and those moments in the game that are just super exciting.
Yeah, and I'm always conscious of that as well. If somebody's playing a game for the first time, I want them to have a good time playing that game. And that's why I think it happens in a lot of cases. If I'm teaching a game, I'm dead last. Right. Just because you're thinking about other players and their experience and making sure they understand the rules, and you just completely neglect your own strategy and what you're trying to do yourself, which I don't think is a bad thing. Yeah. And you guys talked about the differences and how you like spicy maybe more than cockroach poker. I think I like cockroach poker a little bit more. I do have more experience playing it. But like you mentioned, Tyler, over and over again, Logan was sticking you with cards.
Yeah.
And there are those streaks happen in every game.
It was brutal.
Yeah, we played a game and I had all of the rats in my hand. I think I had 7 of them, which I don't know how that happened. And there was 1 rat out on the table. So I knew that there's no way Tyson was passing me a rat. And like 3 or 4 times.
I said rat.
3 or 4 times in a row, he's like, this is a rat. I'm like, false, flip it over. This is a rat, false, flipped it over. This is a rat, false, flipped it over. I disagree. And just stuck him with these, 3 or 4 cards. And see, those moments in the game are just funny. Everybody's laughing and having a good time. So
well, and ultimately it's quick enough and fun enough that regardless of if you lose, you can get another game in and it'll be just as fun.
yeah. Sure. Yep.
And both of those games are great filler games, both with a little sleuthing, trying to figure out who's lying and who's not.
So to clarify, your game that you talked about was not Cockroach Poker.
We talked about that last episode. It was spicy.
Yeah. There could be a little bit of confusion about which game we're talking about.
I think we're going to hear about another game that has a little bit of sleuthing in it.
Indeed we are. So the game that I want to talk about is one that I recently picked up called Detective, a Modern Crime Board Game, Season 1. So to clarify, Detective board games from Portal Board Games, who publishes it, have a number of board games in this genre to include Detective, the main game. You've got some expansions, some LA versions, some other different things, etc. And you just came out Dune House Secrets, which uses the same system. So effectively, this game is the same system that is kind of reskinned over and over again, because what Portal Games slogan is board games that tell stories. Yep. And that's really what this game does. It's a board game in which it tells a narrative story about you as the player being a detective trying to solve a series of crimes that are not necessarily related. But you have, in this box specifically, you have 3 separate crimes that you can go and solve. So think of like an escape room style game, or like the Exit series or things like that, where it's kind of this one and done. Once you figure it out, you've kind of figured it out and you could pass it on. It's designed by Ignacy Shevchyk and his wife Mary Shevchyk and Veronika Spira, I believe. So I played this game solo, which I like to play a solo game occasionally, and I think that for me, if I were to play this game as a group, I think it would take away from the effect that I like as much. I actually really, really liked this game solo. But what it is, and without spoiling it, because there's some spoiler elements in it, is that you have the only real game elements in it is that you have a time track and you have a car meeple, and the car meeple can go to different locations on the board. There is a deck of cards that you will go through. Think of like a choose your own adventure style game in which you're looking through and it says, here's your options of what's going on in this scenario at this time. At the bottom of the card, it says you have some options about where you can go. Go to card number 117, go to card number 123, etc. And you can choose where you go. But as you're doing that, you're spending time because you can only investigate a certain amount of things in a given day, and you're trying to go through. I've only played one scenario so far of this, and it was, I played it twice because I lost the first time, and I was like, oh, I can figure this out. And then I played it again, and I still lost on that second try. Even I knew what the solution was, but I couldn't get to it with the information I had given, and so I didn't want to make like a jump in logic. I wanted to definitively say this is how it happened. So I lost both times. But even though I lost, I really, really enjoyed this experience, especially at solo. But
I think it'd be awesome. You know, I've got the Dune House Secrets game and the original base detective game. I would be definitely interested in swapping at some point just to try them out.
And I would be willing
to share them.
I would be willing to try this one as a group, knowing what the experience offers, because there's not a lot of game in this, and this could easily be alpha gamered. So that's just something to be aware of.
So I think the obvious comparison would be to Chronicles of Crime.
Yep.
Right? Have you played Chronicles of Crime?
I have not.
I've played that one quite a bit and absolutely love it. I think it has one of the best app integrations of any game that I've ever played, and it's a lot of fun. So this sounds similar to that. I'd be definitely interested in checking it out.
Yeah,
and it's about an hour to play.
So this specific one, it took me about an hour to learn it and play it, and then another 30 minutes to replay the scenario I played.
Do you have to use your computer for this one?
This you do. You have to have some sort of device because it utilizes the Antares database, which is essentially you're some sort of analyst that is going through and reading all of the notes and the case files and things like that.
Cool. Sounds fun.
That was Detective, a modern crime board game, Season 1.
Kevin, do you want to tell us about the next murdery style game?
I do.
Awesome.
I do. This game, it's probably one of the most unique games that I've ever played. It is called Nyctophobia Vampire Encounter. So Tyson brought this to our last game night. I got to play one of Tyson's games again. So
About time, right? You've never done that.
Right. There was 2 that night.
So you don't have to hear any more complaints about that.
No, well, I'll still hear complaints about it, I'm sure.
No, there'll be more directed at Tyler now because Tyler's still avoiding all the games I bring.
Well,
He'll always bring up the adrenaline card.
I was going to
regardless.
say that until we play Adrenaline.
Hey, I played Russian roulette with you.
Yeah, that's true.
That was your game.
That was, but I didn't choose to bring that one. Somebody asked me to bring that.
What
and
are these
forced you to play it.
caveats that you come
I
up
wasn't
with?
my
It's
choice.
everywhere, right?
I'm
That's
just
what I'm
saying.
saying. This is never going away, right?
Yeah.
Just
okay, well,
saying.
anyway, back to the game. Like I said, it's Nyctophobia Vampire Encounter. So the unique thing about this game is that everyone on the table, except for one person, is blind the entire game. So you put on glasses, and you can see obviously in your periphery, right? But you're supposed to not be able to see anything, and you're definitely not supposed to be able to see the board. So the vampire is trying to get all of the other players, right? And as soon as he gets one of the players, the game is over. So the players start in a car. The vampire starts somewhere else on the board. I couldn't tell you where because I couldn't see anything. But the goal of the players is to rescue one of their friends. I think it's called the familiar. So they're supposed to find the familiar and bring them back to the car. And they're doing this while not being able to see anything. So when it's your turn as one of the players, you'll put your hand out and then find your player piece, and you'll have to get some help from the vampire to find your player piece. And then you explore the 4 areas that are around you. And you see you can run into trees, you could find a rock, you could find, I don't know, is there other things you could find?
When you say directions, you're talking about north, south, east, west directions.
Correct.
Right?
So north, south, east, and west. And you're going to be communicating with your team those directions and trying to remember where everybody's at. But you'll feel around, and then you'll go a direction, and you can move, I think, was it twice on your turn? You can move twice, take 2 actions, and the whole goal is to try to find this person. At the same time, when it's the vampire's turn, I guess when it becomes the vampire's turn, and if it's a 5-player game, 2 people will move, the vampire will take a turn, 2 other people will move, vampire takes its turn, that type of thing. The vampire will be playing cards, will be moving to try and catch the players, will be manipulating the familiar, the person you're trying to get them away from you, just making your life hard, right? And making it difficult for you to get this person you're supposed to get. There's also noise that you create, and the vampire always goes towards the noise. So there's some strategy. You're trying to work with your team to get that noise in a spot where you want that vampire away from you, type of thing. So you keep on going until the vampire catches somebody and the game's over, or you get that person back to the car. And that's pretty much the whole game. Did I miss anything on that?
The only other thing
Tyson?
I would point out, and because you said there was some strategy, and you did very effectively utilize the strategy of creating noise, each character who is not the vampire has a unique role. So, for example, Kevin's role was he was the athlete. Was that what it was?
I don't remember the exact thing, but I could jump over trees.
It was like the track star or something to that effect. He could hop trees.
That's impressive.
Right. I was pretty amazing.
It was a noisy endeavor, though, as you can imagine, hopping a tree might be. So he created some noise, and he was effectively just hurtling back and forth over trees to make me go over towards him because I was playing the vampire character.
Is he using the Force?
Yeah, that's basically a Star Wars game.
Yeah. You could, yeah.
So it sounds like this would be a great game to play with a bunch of strangers at a con with all the touching that goes on, right?
Well, you're only touching, so the vampire kind of guides you to your piece, and then you're done. But there is, you're putting your hands all over the board.
If you know the vampire, it's okay, but...
Yeah, right. If it's some random
somebody's eating nachos, I mean,
right.
Yeah,
it definitely has a personal space issue. Like that could be if you're uncomfortable with like somebody coming in your bubble. This game can do that, and even in the rule book, it tells you that as the vampire, you, with the permission of the players, you should get up in their faces. Essentially, you should scare them, pop out, and make it really kind of a jump scares type of a situation. And I will say that of any board game that I've ever played, this is as close as you can probably get to like a horror-esque type of a game experience because you can do those jump scares. And for example, our friend Ben was playing with us, and I got him a couple of times where he was really truly freaked out where I scared him.
I wasn't really cheating, but you can see a little bit on the outside. So I saw you moving over, and I'm like, what's Tyson doing? And all of a sudden he's like, ah! And then Ben did get freaked out a little bit, right?
I did hear a shriek over at the other table.
That was Ben. Yeah.
Which is a fun element to this game, but I think, so my experience as the vampire, I got to see a lot of what was going on. I could see the board, and this was my first time playing it as well, but I could see the board and I could see everything that was happening. There were moments in which I was like, oh, they are so close to being caught by me, or, oh, they are so close to the familiar. And I could see all these exciting points at which they were going to do something that was going to create a fun experience in the game. The major downside afterwards that kind of Kevin and I talked about was that I was the only one privy to seeing that. Yeah. So there was no part of it that I could share that with them, because if I said, oh, you just missed me, I was right there and you didn't feel that space, and if you had, I would have caught you. I couldn't do that because then it gives away information, and then they never know how close they come or how successful they are because they can't see it. So it creates this interesting dynamic that makes it where if the and correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, from your experience, but from my perspective, it created this situation in which if the human players do not succeed and get the familiar back to the car, then they've just lost altogether, and they can't see an experience that they've had where they've had any sort of success, because it's either win or lose. There's no in-betweens.
No, that's exactly right. We had no clue how close we were to anything because you can't see anything. The excitement comes from the unknown. When you're one of the players, you just don't know really anything as you're playing. You know generally where your teammates are because you're communicating. You know if you run into something, but that tension of being close to the vampire, you just don't have that tension of almost getting the familiar. You just don't have that. So it's kind of a weird experience to play. I really liked it as an experience. I don't think I would go back to it a whole lot. I'm glad I played it, but it was just kind of strange. One thing I do really like about it is that the game was developed for somebody who is blind, and
That's awesome.
It's great, right?
Yeah,
like
really
I'm
cool.
all about inclusion in gaming and making games accessible to everybody. And the fact that a game was developed for someone who is blind and is played the way it's supposed to be played for, a blind person or visually impaired person is fantastic. I think that's awesome.
I agree.
So that's one thing. One thing I wish I would have done, and I think it would have just been funny, is you can throw a rock randomly in the game, and I think it'd be funny just to hit my own teammate with the rock and cause them damage.
Well, what you didn't mention is that you and your teammates only have 2 health points. So if you accidentally hit your teammate, you've just basically given yourself
Killed them
a situation.
50%, right, of the way. But, that would have been funny, right? You're like one space away from your teammate. Wow.
Well, that was the case with Justin did throw a rock and it hit a tree that was basically one space away.
Right next
and
to
he
him.
couldn't see it, but I was like, great, throw it in that direction, see if I care.
It's one of those things where, because you can see, like you were talking about before, it was funny for you, but he's like,
Right.
I
Well,
threw a
and
rock,
he didn't know.
For all he knew it went all the way across the board.
But he
right?
never knew that it was funny. Yeah.
So that's Nyctophobia. Fun game. Not sure how much I'll go back to it, but glad I played it.
Awesome. So while you guys were playing Nyctophobia over in the dark, I was over at the other table and I had the chance to play Tyrants of the Underdark. I was really excited about that because I had recently ordered and received the second edition of this game, which just came out. It came out in 2016 originally. It was published by Gale Force 9, and it was designed by Peter Lee, Rodney Thompson, and Andrew Vane. And I think the major differences that I know of are the expansion packs are included in the new edition. However, the miniatures are replaced by cardboard tokens. So this was Dan's copy of Tyrants of the Underdark, and it was Logan and our friend Glenn and I, and I was just really excited to play this game. It is a deck building game and an area control game. 2 mechanisms, I think for the most part, we all love, and when they're combined and put together well, it just makes for a great game. So Tyrants of the Underdark takes place in the Dungeons & Dragons Forgotten Realms world. And the subterranean world of the Drow, right? And the Drow are very chaotic evil as a whole society. And one of my favorite authors when I was a kid was R.A. Salvatore, and he wrote about one of the most iconic characters from Dungeons & Dragons, Drizzt Do'Urden, who was a dark elf or who was a drow and rose above his society and eventually left. But the books were awesome. He was such a fun character. So I was just really excited to play this game, and it did not disappoint. I loved the deck building aspect of it. You're buying minions with influence, and as you cull your deck, you aren't just throwing away those cards. Each card has victory point value, but when you cull it, then you get a higher value for that card at the end of the game. And it was a lot of fun because, Logan and Dan were fighting over a few city caverns, and they were basically going at it the whole game, back and forth. And Glenn, he played really well. He played awesome. He bought some good cards right off the bat, and it looked like he was kind of in control of the game. And I kind of just went under the radar. I was just expanding from cavern to cavern and building more power and influence, and eventually started getting a deck that rivaled Glenn's. And so I went under the radar, and I won the game pretty handily because Logan and Dan started focusing on Glenn a little, and I was left unchecked, right? So it was a little unfair that way, but I had a great time playing this game. Deck building, area control. It was a lot of fun. I'm really excited to play it. It made the cut for our board game weekend in a couple days, so I'm excited to play it.
I've heard about this one for a while, and it's not one that I was initially interested in for whatever reason. But after seeing you play, and I do enjoy the deck building and area control, and I don't know if I played many games that have those 2 mechanisms together.
No.
Right? I'm sure they're out there, but I haven't played a whole lot.
There's one that came out relatively close in time with this that I'm thinking of called Eschaton, which I was vastly more interested in that than Tyrants of the Underdark. And so I've played a lot more of that. I wanted to play this, but I haven't had the chance yet. And I liked that concept a lot, but there were a couple of other games I think that around the same time, I think Clank came around the same time as well and has some of the similar elements to that, but not quite. Yeah. But that whole deck building plus something genre, I think was just kind of growing at that point in time. And I think Tyrants of the Underdark kind of was underrated, and it shouldn't be from what it sounds like.
Yeah. Plus it's got Drizzt.
I didn't see if he actually had a card that came up, but I mean, just being in the Drow world was awesome. And and that's originally what attracted me to this game was the IP because of all those experiences reading those books as a kid.
Which was what year, 1963?
That was it was the early 90s that I read these books, probably. Yeah.
63.
Jeez.
Tyler is currently 75 years old.
I'm just saying, if I get the young jokes, you're getting old jokes.
Tyrants of the Underdark. I'm surprised it's not ranked a little higher, honestly. It's ranked 192nd overall.
That's not too bad. I mean,
it is
for as many games
that's
that
true.
Are in the database of Board Game Geek. But
yeah, I said it was underrated, and that actually surprises me that it's as high as it is when I was thinking it was a little bit more underrated than that.
You thinking top 10?
No. I would have thought at least top 150, but
yeah, I'm looking forward to playing it. Yeah, it was pretty highly rated on my list for our board game weekend. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely not going to neglect you, though, and let you sneak under the radar and get a win. So
whatever, Kevin. So for those of you who don't know, we've mentioned we're going on a board game weekend, and this last Thursday we had some brisket catered decision-making night where we ranked all of our games on our list that we had pre-selected via Pub Meeple, and Pub Meeple, the ranker takes the aggregate scores of the games, and then so we took, I don't know, the top 25 games we're bringing, and then we also let everybody select one more game, and then obviously we're bringing fillers and stuff, but it was a really cool tool to help us rank games and figure out what we're going to play when we go to the board game weekend, and hopefully not take more games than we need to, because the last time we took like 50 games, I mean 45 or 50 games, and we didn't even come close to playing half of them, right? So a little shout out for Pub Meeple.
So speaking of tyranny, Tyrants of the Underdark, I got to play a game recently that was about tyranny. It's Oath, Chronicles of Empire and Exile. And I've wanted to play this one for a while. This is designed by Cole Worley, who also designed Root. It was also published by Leader Games, who also published Root, and they're very much kind of known for their asymmetry style games, Vast, all of the different versions of Vast, Root, etc. And I've really been enjoying Leader Games and what they've been putting out lately. So I was very interested in trying this. I did not end up backing this one on Kickstarter because it was, I think there's a bit of a commitment in this one. But our friend Ben did back this, and he invited me over, and I played with him and Greg to play this epic game. And that's exactly how I describe this game. Think of, if you're thinking book form, think of Robert Jordan, Wheel of Time epic, or Brandon Sanderson, Stormlight Archive epic style, but in a board game form. This game seeks to do something that I don't think any other game does, and it creates this epic world in which there's an actual history and so much detail and richness and things that occur game after game after game. The reason it's called Chronicle is because there's literally a chronicle that you write in the book that shows the history of the game changing from game to game. So essentially, every game you play of this is going to be different because of the growth of the world. So like the locations you can visit, the different cards that you're going to be playing with, the different factions, etc. They're all growing and developing in different ways over time. But the whole idea of the game and the objective is that you are playing as either an exile or you're playing as the Chancellor. And the Chancellor is kind of I almost feel like a Sheriff of Nottingham style player that like nobody really likes the Chancellor, but they're the one on top. And so you can either be the Robin Hood exile type player and try and overthrow them, or you can be the kind of person who is like, well, I can work with them and become one of their citizens. So in the game, there's a lot of this interplay of factions and where you're going to go. But the whole idea is that you're trying to overthrow the Chancellor as an exile. And there's only one win condition at the start of the game. And that is the Chancellor will win at a certain period of time. So if so many rounds go through, you're going to let the Chancellor win. And if you can't overthrow the Chancellor by the end of that, you lose. The Chancellor on round, I believe there's 8 rounds in total, and rounds 5, 6, 7, and 8, you get to roll a die. And if the die shows a certain value according to where it is in the round structure, the Chancellor will automatically win. So starting in like round 6, the Chancellor can win if nobody else has. There is a deck of cards, and this deck is ginormous, that have separate win conditions that the exiles can get, but you don't get it until you go through that deck of cards. So it's really interesting in this whole way that it unfolds and plays out. But it was this epic experience, and the art is by Kyle Farron, who I think adds so much character to this whole world. But I was very interested in my play of this, and I think there's so much that it offers. But all that said, I think that the game has a couple of major issues that, for me, it's not the right game. For example, one of the issues being you take actions on your turn, and you can take as many actions as you want as long as you're able. And then you decide at the end of your turn that now I'm going to pass my turn. So since there's not a set limit of actions, I can literally do 10 plus things on my turn. And that means that my turn is going to be very long. We played a 3-player game. This can play up to 6 players. I would never, ever, ever want to play this game at a 6-player count because it took, seriously, to get back to me. There were turns where it took me 20 minutes to get back to my turn, and I'm just sitting there. And you're not doing anything really on other people's turns. Not very much. And so that was a big issue. And then that end game experience of, well, the die can roll and you can just kind of, that's the end of the game. It's almost anticlimactic. And that's what happened in the game I played, is the Chancellor rolled, and I was so close to taking it and winning. I would have won, but he rolled the perfect right number and the game ended. And I would have overthrown the Chancellor, and there was a lot of interesting things. So for me, I don't know that I would come back to this game, but I could totally see that if this is the type of game that you're interested in, and it's like a lifestyle game. Like, you would have to be committed to, this is the game we're playing, and we're playing this for so much time over the next couple of months or whatever, because it really evolves and changes. There's a lot to love in this game, but I don't think I'd come back to it.
Do you feel like you got the full experience of the game after one play? You said it's kind of a lifestyle game, but I mean, how was the experience just after one play?
I didn't see every card, and there's no way that you could do that. And the setup and takedown of the game is as important as the gameplay itself in some ways. And so I got to watch that whole process and see how that worked. And I had a lot of fun with that because there's a lot of like building and growth and like development. I do feel like I got the full experience as far as what the game can do. there's a lot that I didn't see. There's a lot of discovery to be made. There's tons of cards I didn't see, tons of types of like events, as it were, that are unfolding, and you can locations to explore. There is a lot that would unfold, but like mechanically, I do feel like I saw most of what it had to offer. I know that some cards will maybe implement different strategies and things like that, but like I feel like I got enough.
I think it's a pass for me. I wouldn't want to play it as our board game group, just because I wouldn't want it to take up so many of our game nights, right? If my family liked it, I could see us playing it, but we already have so many campaign and legacy games that are waiting to be played. We just barely jumped into Pandemic Season 0. I don't see it getting played anytime soon, and that's why I didn't back it.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds interesting, and like you said, it sounds pretty unique for what it does.
Absolutely.
And the epic nature of it is intriguing. But it does sound like a pretty big commitment to get into it and maybe to get the full experience out of it. So probably a pass for me as well. I mean, we talk a lot about legacy games or games that are similar, not exactly like this, but similar, that take a lot of time. And I already have so many of those games that are sitting on the shelf unplayed. It's like, it's tough to get another one on my shelf, and it's going to be staring at me.
And that is the weird thing.
Why did you buy me if you're not playing me type of thing,
That is the weird thing about this game, is that you don't necessarily have to make that commitment. Like, I jumped into the quote unquote campaign that Ben and Greg had already started. And I didn't feel like I missed anything. So the drop in, drop out element is there, right. But I don't feel like to get the full value of what the game offers, if I'm not playing it almost religiously, like I don't know that I'm going to get everything I want. And then I'm going to have to relearn it every time. And it's a huge teach. And yeah, I wish that I loved this game, because there's so much to love about this game. But there's a couple of things that are just, I'm not going to probably come back to it.
I mean, just sticking with leader games, I mean, it's hard enough to get Vast and Root to the table, right? So
still never played either of those. So.
You're missing out. They're awesome. It's the same kind of reason I didn't buy Sleeping Gods. It just, I've got too many campaign and legacy games going.
Well, we just don't play those enough in this group that we can really justify committing to something that begs for that kind of attention. So yeah, that was Oath, Chronicles of Empire and Exile from Leader Games and Cole Worley.
Okay, so I just wanted to follow up really quick on Ankh, Gods of Egypt, from our last episode. It was our feature game in our last episode, and since that episode was released, I've had the opportunity to play a couple one-on-one games versus Logan. And for me, as a two-player game, it does not hold up. You miss out on the merging mechanic, which some people may like, but I did not like. And I felt like the conflicts were also less exciting, the battle conflicts and the card reveals and what happens. And some of those decisions are less exciting because, there are fewer battles and there's less people involved, and it's just not as exciting. And the third thing was, in both games that we played, it kind of seemed like whoever got out ahead early, there was no catching them. And maybe that was, just a bad experience, it's definitely a small sample size, but it just seemed like once you got ahead, there was no catching up. I do have to say, I've had a couple moments since the last time we recorded, but in some of the games I've played, and I had a moment in Ankh. It was a really long day, baby in the house, not sleeping a lot, right? Just Logan and I played a game of Ankh in about 50 minutes, and we cleaned it up and put it away, and he destroyed me. And I sat down on the couch, and I was like, I didn't even use my God's power the whole game. I read my God's power when I was setting up the game, and then it never even crossed my mind. And it was a total moment. But
shocker that you lost.
Well, yeah, not a shocker, right? But I mean, it's still fun at 2-player. I ranked it a 5 out of 5 in episode 1. As a 2-player game, I would maybe give it a 3. Like, it's just not there as a 2-player game.
I'm curious, did you play with the Pharaoh expansion at 2?
We did not.
Because I'm wondering if that would help that experience at all. I think there's some interesting things that could happen there. My concern with the 2-player game is the size of that map. You could almost kind of occupy certain territories and they're just yours.
Yeah, and in one of the scenarios, I mean, the top third of the map was blocked out, and the other map, the other scenario, it might have been as well. Which it's still a great game. And obviously, not using your god powers is detrimental to your experience. But I still like playing the game. I love the game. Just I would like to play it with at least 3 players.
It's interesting. I've listened to other reviewers and a lot of people, they say they prefer it at 2 players. Oh. But I suspect that they probably don't like the merge mechanic. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why they prefer it there, because obviously there's no merge in 2 players. You merge and you have both winners at that point? Or losers. It doesn't make sense. But I would think maybe those that enjoy it more at 2 players don't like that mechanic. But that was a smaller detractor for me, was the merging than the actual battles and having multiple people. I mean, they were just so not exciting, revealing cards and, okay, well, here's another region where only one of us has...
You dominate it.
Yeah, right? You dominate more, and it just wasn't as exciting. There's so much more you have to consider if a 3rd or 4th person is also playing a card in the battle, right? So just a quick review of how my 1 versus 1 games have gone with Ankh so far. All right. Now we're going to jump into our feature game review, and we are going to start off with Kevin going over the rules for Praga Caput Regni by Vladimir Suki. Kevin, take it away.
In Praga, players take the role of wealthy citizens organizing various building projects in medieval Prague. By expanding their wealth and joining in the construction, they gain favor with the king. Players choose from 6 actions, which are always available but weighted with a constantly shifting array of costs and benefits. Clever players will discover synergies between carefully timed actions and the rewards from constructing civic projects. At the end of the game, the winner is the player who most impressed King Charles. Praga Caput Regni is designed by Vladimir Suki and is published by Rio Grande Games. It plays up to 4 players and takes about 90 to 120 minutes to play. To play Praga, you do the following 3 things on your turn. First, you choose 1 action tile from the action's crane. Second, you perform 1 action and possibly 1 extra action. And third, you end your turn by rotating the action crane and returning the action tile. To choose an action tile, you select which action tile you want to take and take the tile from the crane. Depending on which tile you take, there could be a cost in coins, or you could get a bonus in victory points. Each action tile selected has 2 different action options. Either of the actions can be selected, but you are only allowed to do one of them. There is also a bonus associated with the action you take. The bonus could be additional resources, eggs, victory points, or the ability to purchase special tiles. Managing mines and managing quarries are 2 of the actions that you can take. These actions will allow you to get stone or gold, and could allow you to increase your production on the mines or quarries tracks. Taking the production option could also get you other bonuses on your player board that have been uncovered earlier in the game. Seals, production tokens, and wealth bonuses can also be obtained during the Manage Mines or Manage Quarries actions. These will give you endgame bonuses and other items that will help you during the game. The next action is Upgrade. The upgrade action will allow you to make one of the standard actions better. When taking this action, you select one of the 4 available tiles on the board and put it on top of the applicable action on your action board. From now on, when you take that action, you use the upgraded action and you get the bonus printed in the middle of the tile. The next action is Construct a Wall. When you perform this action, you select one of the available wall tiles from the wall row. You must immediately pay its cost and then place it in an adjacent space next to your action board. You get all bonuses indicated on the tile. Bonuses could include moving sideways along the hunger wall, corner bonus tiles for the cathedral, or adjacency bonuses. I won't go through what all of the bonuses are, you just know that they are all good and you're going to want to try and get as many bonuses as possible. The next action is construct a building. When performing this action, you choose a hex tile from the building row. After paying the tile's cost, you get any bonuses similar to the wall tile, and you place the tile on any legal building site. You may be able to claim the tile, or you will get immediate victory points depending on the tile placed. The last action is construct the King's Road. Advancing along the King's Road will take you to 5 different sections. Each section will allow you to resolve 1 or 2 effects, one of which will require you to spend an egg. Getting to the end of the King's Road will allow you to select tiles that will give you bonuses and endgame scoring opportunities. In addition to the 6 actions, there are a number of other things to keep track of in Praga. You will be moving along or climbing the Hunger Wall and St. Vitus Cathedral. You will be moving along the Technology and Charles University tracks. You'll also be trading in windows to take additional turns. Once everyone has taken 16 turns, the game is over. Endgame scoring points are added to points earned during the game, and the person who has the most points wins. There's a lot going on in Praga. I haven't explained everything about the game, but this should give you a high-level idea of how it works. Let's get back to the table and see what we thought of Praga Caput Regni.
Thank you, Kevin, for the rules explanation of Praga Caput Regni. To kick it off, let's talk a little bit about the production of this game. I want to start because I've got some thoughts on it. I really like the production overall in this game. I love the art on this board. I think it's beautiful. The color palette that's chosen, I think, is really great. I think it's very pretty. The one complaint there, though, is it's very busy. Like, there's a lot going on, so it's kind of hard to see. Though I feel like once you start to get playing, the symbols make sense, the iconography, everything, it kind of comes together. So I like it, but I do think that there's a little bit of a barrier to entry there. When you're kind of looking at the board for the first time, there's a lot to take in. The other thing about the production that I would say maybe be a complaint is that there's in the game there's some 3D pieces. So like you've got the King's Road that leads to the bridge that has a 3D piece, and then you have what are those tracks called? You've got the cathedral track and the castle track.
Yes, it's the Hunger Wall, and then it's the cathedral.
Yeah, so those are 3D pieces. And I just found when I was sitting, it was hard to see sometimes where they're placed to be able to see that stuff. So I didn't love that.
I would go so far as saying that the Hunger Wall and the cathedral are just not even usable in the game. So if you're sitting to the side at all, you can't see what you're moving on to when you're advancing up the wall. You can't see the bonuses that you may be getting. It's a cool concept, and I appreciate that they put it in there. But in practice, I'm never going to actually play with it. And that's from the first game that we played. We quickly found out that this is just not usable.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, we used them in the first game, and then after that, I was like, nope, we're never playing with these again.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Now, the bridge, on the other hand, is cool.
Yeah,
and
ish.
I agree with the ish, because if you don't glue it together, I was putting my game together the other day, putting it away the other day, and I picked up the bridge as carefully as I could, and it just fell apart into all the individual pieces, and I have an issue gluing pieces in a game together to start with, so I just don't like doing it for whatever reason. And they seem to fit together pretty good, but it just imploded on itself.
It's like getting a game with meeples that you have to put stickers on. Like, I don't want to put stickers on a game or on pieces.
Sounds like no Warhammer 40K for either.
Well, True. I don't want to put minis together either.
There's a whole hobby element to that's not present here, but this is a board game, and it doesn't feel like it should have those extra maintenance steps necessarily. The other thing about the bridge that I didn't like was anytime you got one of those silver or gold tiles, once you get to the end of the King's Road, you have to snap a piece in, and
there's going to be some wear and tear there.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to put a little bit of effort into making sure it's secure.
I have one other thing about the production I want to bring up. The eggs, they look a little too much like M&Ms.
I don't know what
right?
you're talking about.
Are you guys would agree with that?
Oh, I think
peanut butter or
funny stuff. Well, they actually look more like almond M&Ms.
That's true.
As weird as that is,
which I don't like, which is ironic.
Funny story. We were at my house playing Praga. As we usually do, we had a bunch of M&Ms at the table.
Because Mark was there, and that's his...
Mark was there. That's what he usually brings. Tyler had, unfortunately, put the M&Ms
allegedly
on the table next to his egg. I look over mid-game, and there's a look on Tyler's face like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? He had taken the egg from the game, put it in his mouth, and actually bit down on it like it was an M&M.
Allegedly.
And I allegedly saw him take it out of his mouth.
So what I was doing was creating a distraction to throw you off of your game.
Well, anytime somebody eats my game, it is a distraction.
Yeah, I mean, this was the other moment that I was talking about, right? I was so into the game that I just completely did not notice what I was doing, and I bit down, and I was like,
there were some teeth marks on there, right?
There was a little indent, maybe, but. Yeah, I mean, and I quickly spit it out of my mouth, and as soon as I did that, Kevin looked up at me, and I was just like, "Whoa!" and just completely, I mean, caught with my hand in the cookie jar, right?
Right.
And I know how Kevin feels about taking care of his games because I feel very similar
about eating games. Right.
Well,
he likes people to lick and
it was a first for me. I got to be honest.
I thought that goes without saying. Right. I didn't know. I mean, I thought before I'm going to put rules of the game room on my wall, right?
No eating of the game components.
At no point did I think that would need to be a rule, but I'm thinking it needs to be on there now.
Well, for the record, I did bring that egg home. I cleaned it, sanitized it, and I replaced Kevin's egg with one from my copy of the game, which had not been placed in anybody's mouth.
To his knowledge.
It was much appreciated. And for the rest of that game, I kept my eye on Tyler to make sure he wasn't chewing on cardboard.
Allegedly,
right.
Let's move past the production of this game, and let's talk a little bit about what we like and enjoy about this game. Kevin, do you have something that you would like to kick us off and start out for this?
Yeah. Overall, I like the game, and I think the thing I like the most is the action selection mechanic and that action crane. It makes for interesting decisions. All of the actions are always available, which I think is a good thing. You're never shut out of something, but it could be more expensive to take an action that you really want. And that makes for interesting decisions, right? Do I spend 2 coins, and the money is fairly tight in this game. Do I spend 2 coins to get that King's Road action because I have an egg and I want to get that bonus? Or do I take another action to build a building that may give me additional victory points because nobody's selected that and it's made its way around the wheel? I think that's interesting. It makes for interesting decisions. It's something I haven't necessarily seen in a game. And the fact that you get the choice between 2 different actions. It's cool. I think it's fun. We haven't talked about the variability, but you can flip over those action selection tokens to the other side and get a little bit of a different feel on that action crane. So that's one of my favorite parts of the game. I think is that.
It's easily my favorite part of the game. And I love that the actions are always available to you. As an action is not selected turn after turn after turn, it starts to become more valuable and worth victory points as it passes on, which is great when it's an action that you eventually want to take. But there are times where it's like, okay, if I pass on taking this action, it's going to go to Tyson or to Kevin, and it'll be worth 5 victory points. But I really don't want to take either one of these actions. But you almost feel like you have to take them. And it's very rare that any action makes it all the way around through bonus victory points and then gets added, later on into the green section of the board, right? So it's very rare that it happens. So at least, you want to take those victory points, but there are times where you absolutely don't want to take them because of the action choices that are available, but you don't want Tyson to get those victory points, right?
You never want Tyson to get more victory points.
No.
Right, because I'm such a threat. I get it.
Hey, you won the first game we played.
I did. I did pretty well at that first game. All the other games after that was pretty much downhill. I think I won one other game in that, which I think we can all agree then that action selection wheel is got to be one of it is the best thing I think about the game because it adds so much depth. There's so many choices, like Kevin said, and there's so much decision to make on both. Does this benefit me or does it benefit somebody more if I leave it? Like, right. I love that decision. But on top of that, I think Vladimir Suhi always has these really cool mechanics in all the games he designs. He has like one thing that I think just stands out in each of his designs, and that action selection wheel for this game I think stands out for me. And I just, even though there may not be a substantive reason or actual effect on the game, I think one of the coolest things about the action selection wheel is that it has that cube. So it's a dual layered thing. And you put like a brad in the center of it when you open the box and set up your board. And there is a hole in the gear wheel, and then there's a hole in the board as well, so that as it rotates around, there's a cube that will drop in place to tell you when the round ends. Now, rounds don't really make that big of a deal in this game, but it's just kind of helping you track the progress of where you are and make some changes in setup and things like that halfway through the game. But I think it's so amazing, and there's so much like design decision that went into that wheel to show how it works. And it's advancing in the background without players knowing that first player. Whether or not that actually does anything is up for debate, but the fact that I never have to keep track of that or never have to think about where it is or how many turns I have left, it's automatically doing it for me. I think that was just like beautifully designed, possibly one of my favorite design elements in almost any game because of how clever that is.
That is cool. The only thing I would say about that is sometimes it's a little hard to determine which turn that cube starts falling down, right? Yep. I think it's an awesome thing that it does, but I'm like, wait a minute, is it this turn? Is it starting to fall? Or, oh, nope, I need to turn it a little bit more, and now it's down there good. Yeah, it's on the next turn.
Yeah, I don't think the holes don't necessarily align perfectly.
And that's a production thing. Yeah. It's not, how it was designed. I think the design is awesome.
But the timing of the wheel, and I love that even, on the board, it shows the chart for the last round, and it tells you exactly how many turns that every player has left based on the number of players and the turn order, right? Which is really cool because a lot of times the first player has one less turn in that last round, and it's cool that you know exactly how many turns you have left.
No, I think that's awesome. One of the other things that I really like about this game is, and Kevin kind of briefly touched on it, is those comboing of actions. So you get those bonus actions so that you can choose, and you can say, well, am I going to take this action because it has this bonus action, which will get me another white window, which if I get a white window, I already have a gold window, and I can spend both of those to take another turn and then do a lot of stuff that builds off of each other. There's a combo element in this game that I think is just really satisfying when you get those turns that are like, I just did something really cool. I just jumped 40 points essentially in one ish turn. And I think that that's a really rewarding and satisfying experience with this game.
Yeah, that's really fun. I like that too. And I think that's really, the best way to maximize your score is to try and maximize the number of times that you get to take an extra action. Those opportunities are sometimes really easy to find, and sometimes it's really hard to eke one or two out in the last few turns, right?
Yeah, because everybody has 16 actions, but it's not really 16 actions, right? Because you're taking the double actions a certain number of times during the game. And if you can maximize that, you maybe have 20 actions, which is a huge deal in this game.
Yep.
If you can double up, you're going to want to try and do that as much as you can for sure. And that's one of the things I had down too is taking double turns it's fun, right? You get to do a lot of cool stuff. I mean, maybe you get to do a double Kings Road action, and you finish off the Kings Road in one turn when nobody thought you could, and it's just kind of cool. And you get all these load up with resources. It's cool.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of option in this game for that type of experience to be had, whether or not that's with taking a double action or placing a new tile on the board that then chains and gets you to move up the tracks, which then you can now move even further and chain with another combo action on those tracks as well. There's just a lot of comboing, and if you've unlocked a tech that also has a bonus action on it, like there's just a lot of potential for these combos. And I think those experiences in this game are my favorite experiences with this game, is effectively making combos. So with that said, let's talk a little bit then about what may not be our favorite parts about this game. Tyler, why don't you start us with some of the things that you dislike about this game?
So I really only have one thing that I dislike, and I feel like there's too much of an emphasis on the King's Road for you to have I feel the dominant strategy that we've seen, right, is to go heavy King's Road early while comboing, doing something else. But I feel like if you don't, I've tried not playing the King's Road and trying to put a decent score up on the board, and it just doesn't happen. You have to do the King's Road actions.
I would both agree and disagree with you in that, in the sense that the most consistent way to score high points is to take the King's Road actions.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily, because of the way the game works and the action selection of the action wheel, there are instances or times where those actions just are not the optimal action to take. And so there's some tactical decision making from game to game that makes it so that I need to take these actions at the right given time. And that can unfold as the game develops. So there can be games where other strategies may be viable, I feel, but you have to get lucky in some ways to make those strategies work. You can't go into a game planning to do a different strategy, I think, than the King's Road, and expect to conclusively be a winner. But you can go in the game and say, I'm going to do the King's Road action and expect to score a winning score.
Right. And I think I found, I don't know if it was our second or third game, but I was like, okay, I figured out if I go heavy gold production and heavy King's Road, that'll put me in the position where at the end of the game, I'm just trying to maximize my score, doing something at the end, and I can score between 130 and 140 points, right? Consecutively, I won a few games that way. And it felt almost, I don't know, I was down on the game a little bit. And I think you were too, Kevin, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But we've started playing this on Yucata. And that's been interesting. But I was looking up like some of the players who play it the most on Yucata. And there's one guy that scores like 170 points almost every game. And I've been trying to do different things and figure out different strategies. And it's funny because what you said about going in with, hey, I'm going to try this strategy, right? In the last game that I played with Kevin, I was like, okay, I'm going to go heavy with this strategy that I had observed in one of these guys' games, and the game layout and how the action selection broke out, like it never
was viable.
Right. It never was possible for me to pursue that strategy. But I do feel like if you go heavy King's Road, regardless of what else you're doing, obviously you're trying to pick the best action in conjunction with the King's Road based on what's available to you. You can guarantee a score of 130 to 140 points, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. That game, I went heavy King's Road. And then I ended up, I think, scoring like 150 something points in that game. So I hesitate to say that that's the dominant strategy, obviously, because we haven't played enough to really flesh all that out. And I'm sure there's other strategies out there. Yep. Like you mentioned, Tyler, the guys that are scoring 170 to 180, they're doing something we're not doing. So there's more to discover in that game for sure. But I do agree, at least in our initial plays, it seems like going down that road will consistently get you some good points. For sure.
Well, and that I think is the thing I don't like about it is that the game, unless you're willing to take the chance of losing and know that you could potentially fail miserably because you have to see how those tactical decisions unfold from game to game and know how they're going to link up. But somebody who chooses to go the King's Road route, if they go that way and you're trying to explore still, I don't feel like I can conclusively say, oh, I can maintain my current strategy and still be competitive in this game because Tyler's going King's Road. I feel like at that point when somebody starts moving down that King's Road, if I'm not following suit in some capacity, then I won't guarantee a good competitive score. And so I feel like it lends itself to a crutch of sorts. So like the King's Road becomes a crutch strategy of this is a strategy you can win with. And it doesn't lend you to the ability to explore those new strategies because you're too afraid to potentially take chances and get a lower score. And I've scored below 100 a game or two. I've played 7-8 games or something like that at this point. And I think about 2 games I've scored 80 or 90 points. And I was like, wow, that was a terrible score. But I also really enjoyed the experience nonetheless because I was like, oh, I was trying something new and I was looking to see if I could do something and I just couldn't get it together.
Failed miserably.
Yeah. For me, I think, we played the first game and I was just kind of blown away. Like there is so much to explore here. And then it kind of set in that, okay, the King's Road strategy, right? I still think there's more to explore there, but I'm still a little down on the game from where I was after our initial first play. I do love that it is on Yucata and we can play for free because I feel like that'll give us an opportunity over time to passively, explore this game more and play it more and try and shoot for those 170s and 180s. And, hey, this game, I'm not going to focus so much on King's Road and see if, there's a way for me to score 170 without doing the King's Road or whatever, I don't think it'll make it to the table that much in our group at game night. And so I'm happy that it's on Yucata and that we can play it there.
Which I'm a little sad about because again, going back to the production, I really love the production of this game, and you don't get the same out of Yucata as you do when it's on the table.
Well, and Tyler really likes the taste of the game, so I'm sure he's upset. He's upset about that as well. Yeah.
Allegedly.
There's one thing that I'm not really big on in the game, and that's the hunger wall and the cathedral and climbing those tracks. I just don't find that very interesting, right? Like if you focus on that, sure, it gives you bonuses, but it tells you exactly where to go, right, to get those bonuses. So if you're going to go heavy on those tracks, there's really not a whole lot of decision making to make. Occasionally there's a step you can go up that's like, oh, I either get victory points or I hold off and I go to this arrow and it bumps me up a spot, right? Like
it kind of sets the framework for, hey, you should do this, right?
Those decisions aren't very interesting to me. Like as I was thinking about it, it it would kind of be cool if maybe you put more resources on the left and stuff on the right, where it gives you more incentive to go straight up, either the wall or go up the cathedral. Yeah.
Is this a house rule?
No, we're not house ruling anything, but I just think he could have, I'm sure there's reasons why it was designed that way, but I think that whole experience could be a little more interesting. It's just kind of bland for me.
I can see what you're saying there, and I hadn't looked at it that way because I never saw the cathedral and the hunger wall were where the decisions were made, but rather where you're making your own walls, like when you're purchasing a wall piece or a town piece. Those are the decisions I'm making. The bonus to me is the cathedral and the hunger wall of how that works, and I really like that
wall because you want to move. You're buying that wall because you want to move on the hunger wall.
But the decision is
sure you're making the decision to buy the wall, but my strategy is moving on the hunger wall, and there's not a whole lot.
But there are some decisions there that I've made where I was like, oh, I can either move on the hunger wall or get this other wall tile that doesn't allow me to move on the hunger wall.
Sure. But then that's not your strategy.
And it because it does something that changes a different bonus that has another thing.
But that's the tactical nature of the game, right? Like you see what comes out and you change your strategy based on something that comes. I'm just saying that whole piece of the game, it's just kind of boring to me.
And I can appreciate that. I just, for me, that was the first way I won, was using that strategy. And so I've got a place in my heart of like, oh, I think that's a fun strategy.
Tender place in your heart. Yeah. No, that's cool. No, that first game you did awesome. You loaded up on those bonus tokens, got all the way to the upper left corner.
Right.
And scored a lot of points that way. Yeah, for
So
sure.
you mentioned you want to play it in person on the table because of the production, right? I love playing on Yukata because regardless of where I'm sitting at my computer, I can see the action selection wheel and I can see all of the tiles that are available. Whereas it's a big board, right? I like games that have big boards like that. But when you're sitting on the corner or on the side, sometimes it's hard to see some of the icons and what tiles are available to you when you're sitting across from it.
Oh, and I think I even mentioned that to Kevin at one point. I said, it's because Kevin sat in the position that I was sitting at in the first game that we won, and then the next time I sat in a different position, and I was like, whoa, my vantage point of this board is less ideal, and so I actually felt like my decision making was less optimal because I couldn't see.
Busy,
it's massive and busy.
See. And let's bring up the fact that there are giants on the board.
Yes.
Like, where did these giants come from? Like, you look at all the art, right? And some people are massive and some people are small. It doesn't really matter. It's just kind of funny. The first time I noticed it, I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. You know?
I would have liked to have seen those tiles had a spot in the middle of the board. I think.
Yeah. Of most things that were hard to see, those tiles become a big issue, as well as the whole where you place the tiles, like in the market area, right? Like, because there's some stuff that you get bonuses by putting certain tiles in the market. And if you can't see,
it's also hard to see if you're sitting on the opposite end of the board.
I remember there was one instance in which I was like, hey, is there a spot over there? And I don't know if anybody didn't hear me or whatever. And I was like, that's fine. I'll just put one over here. And then the very next turn, Kevin put one in the spot where I was like, I wondered if there was a spot over there that I couldn't see very well. And I was like, there was a spot there, and it was more optimal than the one I did. So
and everything's the same color. Right?
Yeah,
it just blends in.
It's busy,
right? And it's really busy. I mean, it probably could have been done a little bit better.
I think
it's hard. It is hard to see.
It's overwhelming your first couple of plays. After that, I think you get used to it. But
I do like on Yukata how it gives you a green flag where you can place your stuff.
Yeah,
I'm like, why can't that be in the board game? Just a green flag pops up.
So, guess what? Two cannibals did for dinner in Prague.
I don't know. What did they do?
I don't know that I want to know.
I agree with Tyson.
They split the check. No.
No.
Try again later.
Right. Do you have another one?
I don't.
Oh, that's it?
That's it.
That's all
tonight.
you brought?
Yeah.
I can't imagine there's a lot of Prague.
Well, with that, let's go to something that we can actually maybe have some real substance to, and that is our final takes.
Ouch.
What about, why don't we go ahead and start by giving Kevin the option to rank this game. So we'll rank this game from 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. And if you truly hate this game, you can go off the scale and give it a 0.
I have a love-hate relationship with Praga, I think. More on probably, I wouldn't go so far as saying hate. There's been games I've been extremely frustrated playing for whatever reason. And we haven't talked specifically about this one, which I think is probably coming. But I think overall I like it. There's some things that I don't like. I mentioned, the wall. I think that's the wall in the cathedral. I don't think that really has interesting decisions. And a lot of things you do in the game, it's all interconnected and everything meshes together. And it's basically just one big, mashup of a game that you do one thing and it affects multiple other things. A lot of what I do in the game, it just doesn't excite me, and it's just kind of boring.
Hey.
Yeah. Kind of like
talking about
kind of like you felt about
Lost
Arcana,
Ruins, yeah.
right? It doesn't get me all juiced up, I guess. With that said, I think it's a good game. I think it's well designed. Vladimir Suchy is one of my favorite designers. Like you mentioned, Tyson, there's always something in his games that's just mind blowing. Like Pulsar, the dice drafting mechanic. We all were in my basement playing that for the first time, and it was like, whoa, this is mind blown. This is one of the coolest things I've seen in a game. Underwater cities where you're matching the card color with the action, and you can do both things. That's just really cool and unique. This one, the crane, is awesome, which I love. So there's things I like about it. There's things I don't like about it. As far as a final rating, I think it is a solid 3 for me. I would play it if somebody suggested it. I'm not sure it's staying in my collection, and I'm glad it's on Yucata so that I can play it whenever I want digitally.
Yeah, I'll go next. I feel similar in a lot of ways to what Kevin said. I think there's a lot to be admired about this design in its entirety. I think the game has a lot to offer, but where I think I'll differ with Kevin is that I find some of the decisions really rewarding. So I love the combos. Like, to me, the combos make this game have the experiences that I just really like. So even when I lose, I'm really enjoying figuring out how can I make something work for me and do it in a way that gains me a lot of points and moves that needle far enough. There was one game I remember where I was really far behind, and I made a move that in one turn gave me about 40 points, and it was chaining combos and actions and things like that. And it was really satisfying to see, okay, now I'm back in this game. Even though I wasn't doing so well up to that point, I was back in the game. And I really like that about the game. I do think there are some warts. I think that there is a dominant strategy, or at least maybe dominant may not be the right word, but at least there's a strategy in which it's the safe strategy. It's the comfortable strategy. And I like a road less traveled sometimes, and you don't always feel like you can take that road in this game sometimes. So for me, I think overall, I think this is an above average game, and I would say that a 3 is an average game. To me, I think this is a little bit better than a 3, so I'm going to put this at a 4.
I'm going to have to agree with Tyson. It's a 4 for me. And I love the same things about it that you guys loved. I love the action selection. I love the comboing that you mentioned, Tyson. Initially, I was blown away by it, and I would have given it a 5. And then I think I dropped down into the 3 region, but I still feel like there's more to explore for me to try and figure out how to maximize my score and bring up that average. And so for me, it's still a 4. I still enjoy playing it and still it provides interesting decisions to me, and I like it. So, and I mean, at this point, I don't even necessarily really care whether I win the game or not against you guys. I want to beat myself. I want to get up into the 160s. I want to get up into the 170s, right? So for me, it's definitely a 4.
And it's your favorite game. to
eat. Wow. Well, that's Praga Caput Regni. That's our thoughts on this game. Now we'll switch over to our top 5 list.
Number 5.
All right, so I'm going to start us off with this number 5. On my list of games named after real locations, my number 5 is Santorini. Santorini is an abstract, typically 2-player game, published by Roxley Games, designed by Lena Cosette and David Forrest. I like this game. I think it's real simple. It's a good, quick game. In fact, Kevin and I have recently played it on Board Game Arena a couple of times just to experience it, and it goes really quick. It, to me, is like chess with a fresh new take, and I really like it. It's based in the city Santorini in Greece. So that's my number 5, Santorini.
All right, my number 5 is a game called Tobago. Tobago it came out in 2009. It was produced by Rio Grande Games, and it plays in about 60 minutes. Tobago is based on the island of Tobago, of Trinidad and Tobago. It is a game where you are looking for treasure on the island. So there's 4 treasure maps. You're playing clues on those treasure maps to try and narrow down where that treasure is. It has some similarities to a game that Tyson talked about in the last episode, Cryptid, although it's not quite as involved as that one. It has some similar design decisions. What I like about the game is as you play clue tiles, like I said, it narrows down where that treasure is. It could be, for example, in the largest lake, and then you play another one that says it's next to a statue, and it will gradually narrow down, and that whole process is really cool. There's also some other things about how you get the treasure that I really like. It's a fun game, plays pretty quick. It's an old one, just recently got an expansion, which I'm curious to pick that one up, called The Volcano. But that's my number 5, Tobago.
My number 5 is Praga Caput Regni. I didn't look at either of your lists, so I don't know if you will have or what you have on your list, but I figured that neither of you put a Praga on your list. So I gave Praga some love. It's my number 5 spot. It was a write-in at the last minute. I did have On Mars as number 5 on my list, but I've only played that once, and I didn't feel like I could, as much as I loved that play, I could put that in that spot.
Spoiler alert, Praga is not on my list.
I figured.
Well, I rated it a 3, so
Definitely not on your list.
it's my number 1.
But
No,
I
it's
like
not.
it. I like it, but it, obviously, as we've talked about, just didn't make this list.
Number 4.
My number 4 is Salem 1692 from Facade Games, designed by Travis Hancock. This is a game in the Dark Cities series that Facade Games puts off. I do really like this actually series. I've only played a couple of them, and this is the only one that has made this list. But each one of these games in this Dark Cities series is based in a city in the world somewhere where something dark and terrible happens. So Salem Witch Trials is what this one's based off of. And it's a social deduction game in which you have a team of basically townspeople and you have witches, and you're trying to conduct essentially the Salem Witch Trials, where you're hunting down who the witches are and trying to get them. Some of you may be witches, so you're trying to fool the townspeople from knowing you're witches. And it's just a lot of fun. And there's a lot of social deduction style games that this is akin to, but I think this one does it a little bit better. It doesn't rely so much on lying. So for those people who don't like to lie as much, this is a good game for it. And there's some interesting card play going on in this game. So that's my number 4, Salem 1692.
My number 4 has already been mentioned. It is Santorini. The only thing I would add in addition to what Tyson mentioned is is what I like about the game is the god powers. So there are all kinds of different god powers in this game, special abilities that you can do that break the basic rules of the game, that really switch it up. It makes it unique and fresh every time you play. They can be, you can build 2 sections of a tower at once, for example, or it could change the win conditions of the game, which completely switches up how you think about the game and the strategy of the game. So those god powers are really fun, and it's something that I like to explore in the game. That's why it makes it to my number 4.
All right. So my number 4 is Orleans, which was published in 2014 by DLP Games, and it was designed by Rainer Stockhausen. And Orleans is it's a bag builder game where you're recruiting followers like farmers, boatmen, knights, craftsmen, monks, traders, etc., into your bag, and then when on each round you pull out those tokens, a certain number of tokens from your bag, and those are the tokens that you have available to you to select different actions. There's a little bit of area control, a little worker placement. Of all of my games that I like or love, this one has gone the longest without being played, and that hurts a little. I love this game. Orleans is an awesome game. It did make the cut for the board game weekend, and I'm excited about that. That's my number 4, Orleans.
Number 3.
So my number 3 has been mentioned already. It is Orleans, as was just mentioned by Tyler. And all the reasons that he just mentioned were the reasons I like. And I will echo the fact that, yes, I am very excited to get this one played at our board game weekend. It's one that I, too, haven't played in a long time, and am excited to get an opportunity to play it again. So that's my number 3, Orleans.
My number 3 is a game that's fallen a little bit for me, but it's still number 3, and that is Troyes. Or Troyes, as most people call it. But the correct pronunciation, I believe, is Troyes. Troyes has been around for a while. It came out in 2010. It plays in about 90 minutes, and it's from 1 to 4 players. Troyes it's a dice game. You're rolling a bunch of dice, and then you're using those dice in either groups or individually to take actions. What I like about the game is there are different cards that come out based on what round you're in. So you have round 1 cards, round 2 cards, round 3 cards, and I believe it's a 5-round game. I may be wrong in that, but as you see what cards get uncovered, you can see what cards work well with each other, and you can really exploit those combos. Find the combos that sometimes it almost feels like it's breaking the game. The combos are so good, right? But that process of finding those combos is really cool, and when you can pull something off that's really good, it's a lot of fun. So that's one of the reasons why I like it so much, and why it made it to my number 3.
I think I considered putting it on my list, and I ultimately left it off. I think at this point I like the Troyes dice game a little bit more than the original game, but
Troyes dice almost made it on my list.
Did it?
Yeah. I've been playing Troyes for a long time. I have a lot of great memories playing with my wife, Alicia, and we just had some great games. She has called me many names while playing that game when I buy her dice.
Yeah, that can be frustrating.
Which can be a little bit frustrating, but it's always good. It's I wouldn't say always a good experience, because we've had a game or two that has not been great, but more often than not, it's great. It's a great game.
All right, so my number 3 is Brass Birmingham, that came out in 2018, and it basically reimplements Brass Lancashire. They're very similar. I could have put either one in this spot because they're both great games. The designers of Brass Birmingham were Gavin Brown, Matt Tolman, and of course Martin Wallace. This is it's just an awesome experience. It also made the cut for the board game weekend, and I'm excited to play it. You're building, you're setting out industry tiles, you're gathering resources, you're trying to figure out ways to collect and then sell the industry tiles that you've put out. You're building a network and trying to make use of the resources that are available to you. I love the coal and iron and the beer aspect of this game and how that market works out, where you can sell off your coal and iron to get lots of money. I love the turn order selection. It's based off of who spends the least amount of money each round goes first in the next round. And just lots of cool little things about this game. It's a fantastic game. That's my number 3. Brass, Birmingham.
Number 2.
All right, so my number 2 game is one that is not available currently in the United States or outside of China, really. It's called Pingyao First Chinese Bank. And I will preface this by saying I've got my hand in the pot in this game. I'm helping bring this to the United States with some of my side stuff. Jing Studio is the publisher who I have worked with. But I'm only putting this game on the list because I've played this game this past year, I think, about 15 times. And I have fallen hard for this game. It is a dice as workers placement, money management, economic game where you assume the role of merchants or in China trying to put up the first banks. And there's a lot of actual history that goes behind this that I love. But I love this game because those dice as worker placement, you end up placing them all across the board to go to different locations and build these banks and try and create an economic engine. And the engine building in this game is super satisfying. I really like this game. It's one that'll hopefully be in Western areas within the next little couple months or so. So this is my number 2, Pingyao First Chinese Banks.
My number 2 is Clans of Caledonia. There's a lot to like about Clans, and I've played this game quite a bit. When I first got it, brought it over to Tyler's house, and I think we played for 3 nights in a row or something like that. We played quite a few games.
My family was out of town.
Right. And just loved it from the first play. There's a lot to like about the game. It's got a modular board that can be set up in a variety of different ways. You're purchasing pieces off of your player board and placing them on the main board. And it's interesting to determine where you place those pieces, how you're positioning yourself to make sure you can expand to other areas in cheap spaces, blocking other people out of places that that they want to go to. One of the biggest parts of the game that I love is the market. The market is, if somebody buys more goods, they get cheaper. If you sell more goods, I think it's the other way. If you sell more goods, they get cheaper. If you buy them, they get more expensive. Anyway, that market manipulation, trying to wait for the right time just to eke out a few more dollars so you can do an additional action is awesome. Played a lot of this game and I still love it. And that's Clans of Caledonia. That's why it's my number 2.
Awesome. My number 2 is actually Dwellings of Eldervale, a real location. No?
Have you visited Eldervale?
In my mind.
You understand what real means.
Oh, did you get attacked by a dragon?
A wizard.
Oh, a wizard.
Yeah. So actually, my number 2 is also Clans of Caledonia. I go back and forth on this and one other game being my favorite games overall. I absolutely love this game and everything about it that Kevin said. I second. Clans of Caledonia, definitely my number 2.
And number 1.
All right. So my number 1 real location game is going to be Coimbra, which is in Portugal. And it's a city there in which this game is a dice drafting game. And there's a lot of... the whole game itself is it's beautiful. It stands out. The colors, the play is really rewarding. Anytime somebody brings this to the table, my eye just gravitates towards it and I want to play it. Like, it's on this shelf that I'm looking at behind Kevin right now. And my eye goes straight towards it every time. I love this game. I've never not had a good experience with this game. And I will play this game anytime anybody brings it out or suggests it. I haven't played it in a while, so I need to play it again, and I need to get a refresher on everything. But it's one that I will always play. So that's my number 1, Coimbra.
That is on my shelf of shame, so I would behind Kevin. So I would love to play that at some point.
I as well. Looks like a fun one. My number 1 is a game we have talked about on this podcast previously in episode 1, and that is Teotihuacan or Teotihuacan.
Teotihuacan?
I still don't know how to pronounce that name.
I think it's Teotihuacan.
Teotihuacan. Regardless, it's a fantastic game. Tyler talked about it pretty in depth in our first episode. What I like about it, it's got tons of variable setups. It's got tons of expansions that are fun to explore. I love looking at the board at the start of the game and the setup of the board and figuring out a strategy to start the game and trying to execute that strategy. Sometimes it works, sometimes it fails horribly. But when you get it to work, it's just a super satisfying experience. And it's just a lot of fun. And it keeps me coming back to the game over and over again. And like I mentioned, there are expansions that help in that process as well. Love the game. Love every time I play it. Play it a lot on Board Game Arena, which really helps out exploring the game and exploring strategies. So those are a few of the reasons why Teotihuacan is my number 1 game.
Not to mention, it's just beautiful to look at.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I don't know why, but when I look at that game, I just think it looks awesome. And I love the art. I love the design, the symbology. I mean, I've looked up that city on Wikipedia, and I've gone down the rabbit hole, and there's so many symbols and images that are used in the actual game that I found online, in relation to the archaeology of that city, right? And awesome game. Love that game. And I don't think this is any surprise to either of you that that's my number 1 game as well. And like I said, I flip-flop back and forth on my favorite game overall, and it goes back and forth between Clans of Caledonia and Teotihuacan.
I feel sad that I do not love either of those games as much as either of you have. But then again, I haven't played them physically yet. I've only played on Board Game Arena. And so I want to love both of these games. I've yet to find the appeal to them. And I want to play them physically.
You should feel sad.
You downvoted them for the board game weekend,
yes,
for the record.
Because I had other things I wanted to play.
Like?
Everything else.
So what you just said
is
I really want to play.
When you guys put it on the table in front of me, I want to play it.
I will say, both of those games, if you play with experienced players, you
have a disadvantage.
Severe disadvantage, right? So you coming into the game both of those games, a little bit later after we had played, I don't know, 70 times, right. For both of them, it doesn't lend itself to a positive first experience, especially playing online.
Right. I think that's compounded by that.
Pick up on the cues of other players. You can't ask questions in real time. You can type them in the chat, but by that time you've taken your turn already. Right. So, you should give it a shot physically. For sure.
I will. You guys bring this to the table during a non-board game weekend play.
For the record,
I'll play it.
You put Clans of Caledonia at 46 out of 64 and Teo at 50th out of 64. So clearly you're not that interested in playing either of them.
No. What you have to remember is the criteria.
You did rank them higher than Quacks of Quedlinburg.
Yeah. Was Quacks my last?
Wait a minute. Is Quacks your favorite game?
It was not my favorite game, and in fact,
it was the counting spaces that was hard,
right?
And frustrating.
Really Have you ever counted?
Math is hard,
but one of the things I love about Quacks, really quick, and this ties back to Orleans, right? Like I love the drawing
Bag
out of a
building.
bag, right? And the bag building.
That is what I
but
love about
I think Orleans does it so much better.
Agreed.
It's just not as easy to put non-gamers in front of Orleans as it is to put quacks.
I can 100% agree with all that.
Yeah, and I'm with you, Tyson. I'm not a big Quacks fan. I just don't like it a whole lot. But
And that concludes our top 5 list of games based off of real life locations. Okay, now that we're done with that, let's go move on to some things that we're excited about. I'm going to start because I've got something that I'm very, very excited about. It's board game adjacent. Actually, it's very much board game related. It's just not a board game. So what I'm excited about is I just had completed my own personal custom board game table. I worked with a local carpenter here in Colorado, and to give them a shout out, it's Knotty Boardom. That's Knotty Boardom. So not naughty as in you're naughty, but naughty as in wood, right?
clever.
So I worked with Knotty Boardom and to come up with a design, and he created a beautiful table for me. It's a charcoal stained ash wood table that has a vault.
It's not naughty altar.
It's not naughty altar.
Ba-dum-bum.
So I'm really excited about this table, and I think I haven't had a chance to play anything on it yet because I don't have the space. My basement is being finished right now, and it's going to be completed hopefully by the end of November, and I will finally get a chance to play on it. I'm excited to play with the two of you, Kevin and Tyler, to be able to break this new board game table in. So that's what I'm excited about.
I mean, I love my table. Just the experience of playing in a vault. It makes it more of a, I don't even know how to describe it, like a production. It's like an event,
awesome.
right? And the fact that you can throw the top on, leave a game set up that may be a longer game underneath, or prepare for a game night, put the main event below, get a filler on top while you're waiting for people. I mean, it's awesome. And I've seen pictures of your table. It looks great. It looks
well, and even to put
fantastic.
that top on, because I've got 3 young kids.
Oh, yeah.
And protecting my games from them. I've set up games in advance at my house on the dining room table before. Kevin, you've come and seen how my kids try and play with everything, and it's rough. So having the vault, I'm super excited. I can just set it up, cover it, and when game night comes, I don't have to worry about setup or anything.
Is it a standard height table? Cool.
Yeah, it's standard height table. It's got a pedestal in the center instead of 4 legs. It's got little pull-out drawers for your own specific player areas, cup holders. It's got LED lights. I'm excited. I'll post pictures when it's finally done on our Instagram and with some games on there.
We should get all of our tables on Instagram.
Yeah, Tyler's and Kevin's are there. Kevin's is the origin game table from Game Theory Games or Game Theory Tables.
Now that you say that out loud, I can't remember. Game Theory Tables, I believe.
And then Tyler is his custom table that he built himself, which,
it's awesome.
by the way, both of them, it playing on either table has been phenomenal. I love the experiences we have. So what about you, Kevin? What is something you're excited about?
I've had my eye on a game for a long time, back when it was called Railroad Tycoon. It's Railways of the World. Railways of the World is the newer version of it. It's had a few iterations. I have never played the game. I saw on Kickstarter that they had a Kickstarter for Railways of Sweden. And as part of the Pledge Manager, you can always add on additional games, and Eagle Gryphon Games does that for every Kickstarter they do. You can pick up any Vital Lacerda game when they do a Kickstarter. So I'm like, this is my perfect chance to get into this game. I spent some time in Sweden about 25 years ago. Anything Scandinavian related, I'm immediately interested in. And, if it has a map to it, even better, I want to pick it up. So I did the Kickstarter for that and just completed my pledge manager for Railways of the World. And I'm super excited for it to come. I did the split shipping option, so I should be getting Railways of the World before Railways of Sweden comes. And I'm excited to dig into it, see how it plays.
Man, you're old. 25 years ago?
Yeah.
5 years ago.
So I did something similar. I was in the Netherlands and Belgium, but it was only like 20 years ago.
Oh, it's only like 20. Well, makes
but I feel the same way anytime I see a game that's got Amsterdam or Bruges or the Netherlands, Ticket to Ride, like Koevoorden, anything that originates or is about that area, I buy up. The one I don't have Lowlands by Z-Man Games, and I'd still like to get that one. But I've got like Rising Tide, Pandemic, same thing for me.
Yeah, I've got Ticket to Ride Nordic Countries, which happens to be my favorite Ticket to Ride. It's the most cutthroat version. And my kids and my wife get a kick out of me pronouncing the city names in how they're supposed to be pronounced. And they're like, well, that's not what it looks like.
Yeah. Oh, I actually just the other day got the Benelux, which is Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg map for Power Grid. And I busted out the other night, and 4 of the 6 cities that I lived in are on the map. You know, I've seen some of those city names on Hansa Teutonica, and it's just cool to see places that, you know, you're super familiar with.
Yeah, it's like I lived in Stockholm, or I lived in Uppsala, or, you know, these places that are actually on the map, and, you know, lived there for a while. So I've got stories about each of the places, and this is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I'm excited about is the new Res Arcana expansion that's been announced. And it is called, and I'm going to butcher this because I don't speak Latin or whatever this is, Perlae Imperii, right? It's expansion number 2 for Res Arcana.
Nailed it.
You know, I knew this was coming, and I know it, you know, I've known it's been coming for a long time. I'm fairly quick to pre-order things as soon as they become available. This thing, I thought it was never going to become available, and finally it did, and so I pre-ordered it in the last week or so. I'm excited to play that. That is a staple in our group. We play it on Board Game Arena all the time, and I'm just excited for the new mechanics that it's going to add, and just, you know, it's such a great experience. I can't wait for more content. One more thing that I'm excited about, I recently, as both of you did, I watched the new Dune movie, which was awesome. And I can understand how some people might say it was a little slow in places, but from someone who's read the book and has, you know, I'm not an expert on the series, but I loved every second of it, every scene. It felt like it was clearly made by someone that understood the material and loved the material as well.
That was something that stood out to me, that having read the book, I was very much impressed at how true the movie stayed to the book. Like, yes. It did such a good job of that. Like it took out stuff that was okay to take out, while maintaining the things that were there. The one regret I had, I think, was Dr. Yue.
You didn't like Dr. Yue?
It didn't get across the fact his importance, and his imperial conditioning was not there. Like, he had the tattoo on his head, but not knowing the book at all. And Kevin, you may be able to speak to that. Did you understand at all that Dr. Yue, it was almost impossible for him, like it was unfathomable that he would betray the Atreides?
Who is Dr. Yue?
My point exactly.
Oh, no. Oh, I remember.
He gave the tooth.
No, he gave the tooth to Poe Dameron after Thanos died.
And then the Death Star was destroyed.
Had Aquaman died at that point?
Well, Drax was going around killing people.
And then Drax was... Am I getting the right movie? I mean, I can't. Mm-hmm. All of them. Okay, right. I mean, I liked it. I thought it was a great movie.
There was also some Greatest Showman in there.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and Dr. Whatever from Thor, who was gained a lot of
Oh,
weight and started
sure.
floating and flying.
Yeah.
And then Duncan, Idaho. Right. That name makes sense in that universe, right? And then the hero, Paul.
That's a little biblical, right?
Oh, is that what they're going for?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
It's possible.
I've given the movie a hard time for some of the names and stuff, and I don't have a background in reading the books or really know anything about Dune until watching the movie. And I thought it was good. I liked it. I thought that it was super dramatic, which isn't necessarily bad in a movie. And the cinematography was awesome. The music was great. So I liked it. Not as jazzed up as some of the other guys on this podcast are. But I'm looking forward to the next one, and I will definitely watch it.
I loved the sound effects, especially when the Bene Gesserit or Paul used the voice, especially when he was like told his mom, like, get off me, I don't know, just powerful moments, and just thought the movie was absolutely awesome. Loved it. The thing that I was actually excited about was that they finally came out and announced that part 2 is going forward. Because if they hadn't, then it would be the lamest movie ever.
Right.
But knowing where the story goes, I'm really excited to see
How it comes together.
Yeah. I don't want to spoil anything, but no, I'm not going to spoil anything. But knowing where the story goes, I'm really excited to see how they do.
Agreed.
That's it for the movie corner.
Yeah, and
Whatever,
in fact,
Kevin.
that's it for what we're excited about today. That means that we get to close this episode a little bit by announcing our episode after episode award of the longest turn.
This might take a few minutes.
Right. So Tyler, why don't you explain the longest turn award and what's significant about this episode?
So we like to award, we take long turns, right? And
Absolutely.
We're trying to cut down on that, but there's always someone that takes significantly long turns in some
Significant.
games
Tyson.
that we play. It's surprisingly Tyson, not this episode.
Or the last episode, I believe.
Yeah. Well, I think we've teased him so much about it that
He's making a
He's
concerted
never
effort
actually made
take
a long turn, and
quick-
you're all just mean to younger people.
Okay. So anyway, I thought it would be really cool to create an app for tracking our turns. So I spent a few hours one night before a game night where we played Praga, and I wrote this app where I can enter in players, and I can control starting and stopping their turns, and when I start one turn, it stops any current timers that are going, right? So I thought this would be awesome. I was excited to test it out. Hey, we can track to see whose turns take the longest. I was a little weary of it taking away from my game, and we sit down and we played Praga, and I had the timer going, and just kind of said, hey, when it's the end of your turn, let me know, and I'll start the next person's turn, right? And surprisingly, Tyson did not have the longest turn.
What was my my ranking?
I don't have the dashboard up in front of me.
In other words, I was the shortest average turn.
Ben had the shortest turn.
Sure.
He had about an 8-second turn in Praga, which was impressive.
That was.
I came very close to Kevin. I was about 1 second shy of having the longest turn, which could have been just me reaching for the computer a little slower at one point.
I believe that's what happened.
In your heart of hearts?
In my heart of hearts.
So anyway, so the longest turn, we'll put a big fat asterisk by this one.
But I will take it proudly for the second episode in a row.
Congratulations.
And I feel really good about having it to myself this time and not sharing the award with Tyler.
How did this timer application affect your game?
It was, while I appreciate all of the work that was done to create said application, it was the worst experience I've had in a long time playing a board game. It was absolutely miserable. I don't know if it was just a product of
Wanting to murder
how
everyone?
how that night went or what, maybe it was just a
Really bad Praga play?
really bad. I don't know. Maybe I was playing. The reason why I was playing bad is because you're timing every stinking turn.
And that
So the
created
added
some
stre-
anxiety, right?
So the added stress and the added anxiety of trying to take a quick turn and not, it took away for me, the enjoyment of the game. And the reason why I play games is to just hang out with buddies
And take
have
really
a good
long
time,
turns.
take long turns because it's fun, BS between
Talking,
turns,
yep.
talk to people. Like we played through that game so fast.
We shaved at least 40 minutes off
At
of
least
that
40
game.
minutes, if not an hour off that game.
That was definitely our fastest play of that game.
Because usually what we're doing during the game is kind of talking and it's just BSing and having a good time. This was like all business. Boom, boom. Oh, did you stop my time? No. That's like 2 extra seconds. I better not get longest turn. It was just thinking about that on top of the game was just a miserable experience for me, and it took me out of the game. At least that's what I'm blaming. Is
Fair.
is
It's
that
fair. It's
that
possible?
app.
Possible.
So anyway, I did not like it. Not
So-
saying that this shouldn't happen occasionally again when I'm not there. But
So I've toyed the idea of making it more discreet and putting it on my phone and then tracking turns unbeknownst to the players who are at the table.
if it becomes beknownst, then that is that a word? I don't know.
It is
I
now.
don't know if that's a word.
Webster.
Then you can still have the same problem. But as long as it's unbeknownst, then
Right.
that could work.
You were so upset, and I thought for sure you might be done playing Praga after that experience that I felt really bad. I mean, we were playing at my house. You always feel some responsibility for making sure that everybody has a good time when you're hosting game night, right? I felt so bad that I threw it out there that, hey, Kevin, I would love to play Monster Crunch with you.
And how was that experience? Did you see the
I don't even
beauty?
remember who won, but
I did.
Tyson.
Did you? No, you.
I'm going to take the credit, even if I didn't.
I think Ben won. Didn't Ben win?
I can check.
Did you see
But
the beauty that Monster Crunch is? Right, the production value, the variable player powers.
It's very nice quality.
Right.
I mean, it has
cereal
the cards
in a
have
bowl.
the same feel that what's the pandemic-like horror game that came out?
Horrified?
Horrified. Whatever, Tyson. No, the components, the tokens have the same feel as Horrified.
Yeah,
and it's very nice quality.
which is good quality.
Let the record state to the listeners at home that Tyson is indeed showing that he did win
Monster Crunch.
Monster Crunch.
Which I feel very, very proud of. It was my first play of Monster Crunch,
And
and I know that
probably
this
your
is a very
last.
skill-driven game.
And probably your lab, whatever.
And I know that this is all about my capabilities as a gamer, so I really appreciate you acknowledging.
What did you think of Monster
I will be,
Crunch?
yeah, to be fair, after all of the groaning and moaning that comes from Tyler about Monster Crunch, of which I enjoyed participating and giving Kevin a hard time about.
Without even playing the game.
Without even playing the game, sure.
Right.
But I did. I enjoyed it for what it is. It's not a groundbreaking, revolutionary game that you have to play.
It's like
but
any
if you
filler,
get the chance
right?
and you want to fill up some time in between something else, or you just want to play with family or friends or whomever,
I mean,
it's a fun game.
You got Fruit Brute, you got Boo Berry.
I mean, I love nostalgic cereal as much as anybody else. But
Right.
It's
Oh, have you tasted the game?
I walked into that one.
Because apparently that's a thing you do now.
It was one time. One time.
If any game's going to taste good, it's Monster Crunch, right?
That's true. I actually thought about that earlier, but I didn't want to bring Monster Crunch up.
Well, too late now.
So the longest turn award goes to Kevin, while the tastiest game award goes to Praga for
Fair
judged
enough.
by the sommelier, Tyler.
glad
Only
that we'll
person
be able
voting
to-
is Tyler because other
Nobody else
normal
is
people don't eat games, right?
Everybody else knows not to do that. I'm glad we'll be able to move on from this in episode 3.
Very, very
We're
quick.
never moving on from this. New segment, tastiest game. Tune in to episode 3.
I think that'll wrap it up.
Now I'm
though.
going to go out of my way to put your components near your food, unbeknownst to you.
I thought you were saying,
Yes, I use that word again.
I thought you were saying now I'm going to go out of my way to eat all your games.
I'm gonna place your snacks, your M&Ms, your whatever. I'm gonna mingle them with your tokens without you looking from now on, until I get one of you to also.
You're just
bite
going to trap
into-
yourself again because you've got the track record of
There
eating
goes-
game pieces.
There goes Tyler with pieces in his mouth again.
Well, I think that'll conclude this episode. With everything we've been talking about, it's been a great episode. We hope you've enjoyed listening with us. But before we go, we want to make sure that you're aware of where you can find us. We are on Facebook, The Longest Turn Board Gaming Podcast, Instagram, and you can join our Board Game Geek Guild, Guild 3947.
You might be the first one who's not us to join, if you join right now.
If you are,
Hurry now to be number 1.
Yeah.
you'll get the first person award.
If at some point when we have money to throw around at people, we'll start rewarding them for things, maybe. I don't know. Till
Kevin's got a lot of errant geek gold that he can throw your way now.
yeah, right. You guys are swimming in geek gold. How do you get other geek gold?
I donated to
Oh, you donated?
Board Game
Did you
Geek.
donate?
I donated
Couple years ago.
and I submit content.
Fine. Give me some geek gold, Tyson.
I
Do
did.
better.
I gave you 200 geek gold.
You did?
Yeah, go look at your account.
Thanks. That's really nice of you, Tyson. Tyler?
I'll give you 250
$250.
if you don't mention the egg again.
I don't want your filthy money.
Thanks for joining us in this episode of the Longest Turn Board Gaming Podcast. Be sure to join us next time when we talk about our board game weekend. Thanks again.
Au revoir.
Later.
Ciao. Because I ate the egg, right? Ciao. Welcome to the second episode of the long.
So that was an exciting list of things. Let's talk a little bit more about what we're excited about, huh?
That one was bad. I've had some
Can you
bad
be any more
ones.
generic?
Yeah.
Oh, that was an exciting list of things.
You guys were pressuring me.
Yeah, so we've been wrong every time we've said it. Teotihuacan.
I'm going to be editing that part out, by the way.
Yeah, no, you should edit that out.
Yeah,
It was,
creepy mustache or not, I'm editing that part out. I mean, we should keep that transition.
yeah, I would go. Sorry. I had this weird noise come out of my throat. And I could not. I could tell it was so random. It wasn't anything you were saying. It's just I had
Sorry.
Sorry, that was my bad apparently. But I have no control of my bodily functions. So
Me neither.
okay,
Number.
we're on number 5.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Dice drafting game in which you are in the city of Portugal and you're trying to.
The city of Portugal.
That's not what I meant to say. Thank you. Country of Portugal. In the city of Coimbra.
Welcome to the. We are the longest turn. Oh.
Thank you for joining us in this episode of the Longest Turn Board Gaming Podcast. Join us next time. Nowhere to go with that.
You backed yourself
Don't
in
you
the
hate
corner
that?
there.
I do that the whole episode. I'll start to say a sentence, and I'm like, oh, where do I go?
Where
with
does
this?
that end? That doesn't end. Thanks for joining us in this episode as I punch the table.
Hulk smash.
Remember how you said no taps? Well, I just wanted to make sure there were taps.
Happy
Tap, tap.
Well, thanks for joining us, and we hope you have a great time until the next episode. I have no idea why. That's a terrible ending.